survey suggests a quarter of New Zealanders are struggling with the cost of living.
Homelessness is rising and the cost of living crisis is having a brutal impact. 1 in 4 children reported going without food sometimes or often, and for Pasifika, 1 in 2.
1 in 10 children is living in material hardship. That means going without things like fresh fruit and veggies or not using a heater in winter.
The paradise of the world is collapsing into a nightmare. For decades, New Zealand was seen as the perfect escape. Clean, safe, and full of opportunity. A place where families could grow, children could dream, and communities felt strong. But today, that image has cracked. Families are struggling just to eat. Young people have lost hope of owning a home. Communities are losing their schools, their libraries, their very heart, and more people are leaving every year. The postcard perfect promise has been broken. The question is, how did paradise collapse, and what does it mean for the next generation?
A new survey suggests a quarter of New Zealanders are struggling with the cost of living. Despite growing expectations that interest rates will continue to fall, a majority worry that inflation will rise.
And right, in terms of what this means, people in New Zealand and Kiwi land going, all right, who cares about
who's buying all that stuff? Who's buying all that red meat? Who's potentially going to buy a lot of the stuff that we make?
There are a dozen people in the Latu household in the Auckland suburb of Mangere, but not enough beds for everyone.
Every country makes a promise to its children, a promise that their future will be better than the present. In New Zealand, this was a promise of a clean slate, a world of opportunity, and a safe place to grow up. But what happens when that promise is quietly, slowly, and systematically broken? For many children across the country, their reality is a world away from the postcard paradise.
Progress on reducing child poverty has stalled. Stats NZ said the numbers have not changed for 2 years now.
83% of young people rated their family well-being as high, but it's not all good news. More than a third of families with children spend more than 30% of their income on housing, and 7% of children live in homes with a dampness or mould issue.
The government measures child poverty in 9 different ways. For a long time, the hope was to see these numbers fall. But the latest data from late 2024 showed a painful truth. There was no significant change. For thousands of children, the daily struggle is the same as it was the year before. The promise to a new generation is stagnant. The system is stuck.
A recent Oxfam report on inequality found almost a third of all wealth in New Zealand goes to the richest 1%. And that gap between the rich and the poor is only widening.
1 in 4 children reported going without food sometimes or often, and for Pasifika, 1 in 2.
It's a quiet crisis. The lack of progress isn't just a number. It is a lived reality. It is the child who goes to school on an empty stomach because there is no food at home. It is the teenager who feels like they have no options because their family is just trying to survive. This is not a failure of individual parents. It is a failure of the promise itself.
Finance Minister Nicola Willis called it the no BS budget. It was also a budget of 116 cuts. In another sprinkling of pre-budget cash, the government has announced a series of proposed tax tweaks to encourage foreign investment in New Zealand infrastructure.
The promise was also about having a strong community, a place where you belong. But that too is fading. Across the country, local governments are making painful cuts as their budgets are stretched thin. They are being forced to choose between essential services and the heart of their communities.
We've got millions of books here in the National Library, Stevie. We're looking to rehome some of our overseas published collections that we have here.
There'll be no lolly scrambles in the near future, with the opening of the books revealing the government's coffers are emptying out and the outlook is bleak with more pain ahead.
Places that once served as the backbone of local life are disappearing. Libraries, once the quiet heart of a town, are reducing their hours or closing their doors. For many, a library is more than a place to borrow books. It's a warm, safe place to be. It's where a child can do their homework, where an elderly person can read the newspaper, where a young person can connect to the internet. When the lights go out early at the library, it's not just a budget cut, it's a quiet loss of a shared space.
The Secondary Teachers Union says the government needs to make better choices as it fights for a better pay offer ahead of a strike next Wednesday.
Schools could be more than 1,200 teachers short this year, with demand outstripping supply. And it's not just here. Data show it's a global issue. But in New Zealand, the ministry is projecting it's 1,250 teachers short of what's needed.
The same thing is happening with schools. The promise was that every child would have a safe, reliable place to learn. But in many communities, small schools are being closed or merged. The school, a cornerstone of any community, is being forced to say goodbye. Some are even being temporarily shut down because they don't have enough teachers. The feeling of belonging, of having a place, is quietly disappearing. It's an erosion you don't see on the national news, but you feel it in your daily life. It is the silent loss of a community.
Prime Minister Christopher Luxon and Finance Minister Nicola Willis have made it very clear the government's focus for 2025 boils down to that one word.
But why? Why are these things happening? Why are communities falling apart? And why are children's futures at risk? The answer is not in any one decision, but in a series of silent, interconnected problems. The first is a big, boring word with a huge impact on your daily life: productivity. Simply put, it's how much you can produce in 1 hour of work. And for a long time, New Zealand has been falling behind its peers in the developed world.
It's no secret that New Zealand's economy is struggling. Our productivity is going backwards, and we're in dire need of a switch up. So, how do we fix it?
Our productivity growth has been sluggish, and in the first quarter of 2023, it actually went backwards, declining by 0.9%. This might seem like a small number, but it's a drop we haven't seen since the global financial crisis of 2008. This has direct consequences for our to-raise living standards. We are working just as hard, if not harder, but the economy isn't growing fast enough to give us a raise that makes a real difference.
A new survey suggests a quarter of New Zealanders are struggling with the cost of living. Despite growing expectations that interest rates will continue to fall, a majority worry that inflation will rise due to global economic headwinds.
I drink probably once every 3 months. It's not coming short from spending it up large, it's coming short because there's other things that, require money.
This lack of growth has created another major problem: a fragile household. For multiple quarters in 2024, New Zealand households spent more money than they earned. Household savings went negative for the first time in recent memory, with reports showing millions of dollars in the red. This isn't just a number on a spreadsheet, it's a constant grinding stress that eats away at the soul. It's the silent anxiety of checking your bank account and seeing it dwindle, even though you've just been paid. Families are no longer building for the future. They're dipping into their reserves, sacrificing their dreams just to keep the lights on. They are eating their own future, one expense at a time. This fiscal fragility is the new normal, a far cry from the easygoing, debt-free image the country once projected to the world. The government is not ignoring the problem. They know the promise has been broken, and in 2024, they took a small but significant step to try and fix it.
Others have said similarly, this could have been a Grant Robertson budget in terms of the overall shape of it. Overall spend is pretty similar to what we had under the prior Labor government.
In my mind, Budget 2025 is very much the switch it budget. You've seen the government wanting to make a lot of spending commitments, but they've got to be paid for. That means with a very slim $1.3 billion operating allowance, the government has had to find $5.3 billion of savings to achieve a total of $6.7 billion.
They changed the tax rules for many people, giving the average taxpayer about $30 extra a week. For many, that money is a welcome bit of breathing room. It's a chance to put a little extra toward the groceries or pay off a bill. It's a small bit of relief. It's a step in the right direction. It shows that the government understands the daily struggle of the average family. But is this enough to fix a broken promise? Is a few extra dollars a week enough to rebuild an entire social contract? The honest answer is no. This tax change is a temporary bandage on a much deeper wound. It doesn't solve the fundamental problems: the lack of productivity, the fragile household budgets, the struggling education system, or the slow decay of our local communities. This is an effort to make things feel better, but it doesn't actually fix them. The true wealth of a country isn't measured in GDP. It's measured in the simple things, in the security of a family, in the well-being of its children, and in the strength of its communities. In New Zealand, the promise was that they would have these things, but that promise has been under pressure for a long, long time. This is a quiet crisis, one that isn't defined by a dramatic event, but by a series of small daily choices. It's the choice to take on a second job just to pay the bills. It's the choice to move away from the town you grew up in because there's no opportunity left. It's the quiet sadness on the face of a parent who can't afford to give their child the opportunities they once took for granted. For years, we were told to work hard, save money, and we would be rewarded. But for an entire generation, that math has stopped working. The dream is not dead, but it is in critical condition. It needs more than just a quick fix. It needs a massive undertaking to rebuild the very foundations of society. The question now is whether the country is ready to do the hard work of rebuilding the promise it once gave so freely. This isn't just a story about New Zealand. It's a story that is happening in countries all over the world, where the gap between the promise of a good life and the reality of a difficult life is growing wider every day. It's a question we all have to face. What happens when a nation breaks its own promise?